Hello students, this is your Sir Shubhadeep. I am back with the second part of this chapter. Today we will going to learn about mixtures. What are these mixtures? Now we have been learning about elements and compounds till now, right? Now we know that elements are the simplest form of matter. These are made up of tiny atoms, right? Now every single element should have different kind of properties. Their properties would not match with the other elements, right? And also if some of the elements mix with each other, chemically combine with each other, right? Some of the elements, if they combine chemically with each other, they will form new substances. Those new substances are known as compounds. We have already discussed those parts. I guess none of you have any kind of problem regarding that. Today we will be studying about mixtures. Now what is this mixture? This is basically not a compound. Okay, when two or three or more elements were combining chemically with each other, they were forming compounds, right? Now if some compounds or some elements mix with each other and they do not combine chemically, only just they stay together and they are not combining with each other chemically, then we call them mixtures. Okay, let's elaborate the statement a little more. When two or more elements or compounds mix together and there is no chemical change between them, we get a mixture of the elements or compounds. Now let's take an example of the air. Now the air is a mixture of gases. I hope that you know this. In social science, in EVS, you have studied these things. Now the air is a combination of various types of gases. You have oxygen in it, you have nitrogen, you have carbon dioxide, argon, and hydrogen, in some cases helium, sulfur dioxide, and ozone also is there a little bit, and there are so many types of gases. But these gases are not chemically reacting with each other that easily. They do, but not every single time, right? Now this is known as a mixture. The oxygen and the nitrogen is present there, but they are not reacting with each other to form various other types of compounds, right? Similarly, oxygen and hydrogen is also there, right? But they are not reacting with each other to form water, right? Also there are various other examples that I can give, but you got what I am trying to say here, right? So this type of a thing is called a mixture. Let's take another example, maybe the soil that we stand on, we build our things on, right? Now this soil is also a type of a mixture. We have iron there, we have silica, there are so many substances present in this soil. We have organic substances, the humus that is present, right? But they are not chemically combining with each other every single time, right? Not always. They are not just continuing to combine with each other chemically. They are not forming new compounds every single second, right? So you can say this is also a type of a mixture. The compounds and the elements that are present here are also staying neutral. They are not just creating chemical reactions. So technically in a mixture, no new molecules are formed, okay, as the substances are not chemically chemically combining with each other. They will not form a new type of a molecule, they will not form a new compound. Now you may ask me that why, when these compounds and elements are there together, they are not reacting with each other that easily, right? Why are they not reacting with each other to form new compounds, new molecules, right? So let me tell you that the combination of this kind of compounds, this kind of elements, does not happen that easily. You need some help from other sources. Maybe you need a little bit of heat. In some cases you may need electricity to induce the reaction. Last day I gave one example for the electrolysis of water, right? When you pass electricity through water, what happens? The molecule of water breaks into hydrogen and oxygen, right? Something like this. So we can say that when two or more elements or compounds are brought together, they do not always react chemically and form a new compound. Not all compounds or elements can react with each other, basically. You have to understand one thing. There are so many compounds and elements present in this entire universe. If all of the things are combining with each other that easily, then in every single second there should be a huge amount of chemical reactions, and every single thing that is all around you would change, right? The table that is there in front of you may chemically react with the atmospheric components, may chemically react with the substances that are lying on top of it and convert it into something new. Maybe it may corrode much easily. Now it will be a funny thing. Now suppose that you bought a metal table, okay, and while you are bringing that home, it got corroded because the reaction with the metal that is present in the table and the atmospheric components is so rapid that the entire table got corroded while it was while you were just bringing that home, that your house, right? It does not happen like it. The reactions does not happen that easily. It takes a lot of time. And a lot of factors should be brought under consideration for a chemical reaction to happen. Basically, even if the substances react with each other, even there is a possibility for the substances to react with each other, they does not happen that easily. The conditions are supposed to be favorable, and only then they will react. Suppose that the water is there in a container. It will not just break into two parts and give you oxygen and hydrogen, right? You need to induce electricity to it. Only then the hydrogen and oxygen would be separated from water, right? Now maybe iron is there, and iron substance is lying there, right? You have seen the rusting of iron, right? Rust is a very common chemical reaction that you can see. Now you have seen the rusting of iron. Now a piece of iron is lying there. It will not just corrode that easily. It should be brought with contact with atmospheric water vapor or a little bit of moisture, and oxygen should be present. Only then it will react and form the rust. Now let me give you a much easier example. Take a matchstick. It will not just burn on its own, right? You have to induce heat to it. Now in this case you have to rub it on a rough surface. This will actually heat up the surface of the matchstick and it will start to burn, right? Now this would be a chemical reaction. So chemical reactions does not happen that easily. It should be the conditions should be very favorable for the chemical reactions to take place. Let's take an example of iron and sulfur. Now I have taught you how to write the symbol for iron. What was the symbol for iron? It was Fe, right? Fe. Now what is sulfur? How do we represent sulfur? Sulfur is actually represented by S. Okay, now these are the two things that we are taking. Now all of you know that iron is a metal, and all of you know what iron looks like, right? Now sulfur is a yellow powder like substance. It's a non-metal. Okay, now we are taking the samples of these two things. I will give you two scenarios. One when I am making a mixture out of it, one when I am making a compound out of it. Okay, now let's take scenario number 1. Case 1. Okay, now here we will be studying about the mixture, and listen to whatever I say very carefully. Now take a container, just fill this container with the sulfur. I'm just changing the color to make it more realistic here. Sulfur is yellow colored, right? That's why. Okay, just fill this container with the sulfur powder here. Okay, now let's take a few pieces of iron, mix all of these things together. If I mix all of these things together, the iron particles will remain here. I'm just considering tiny pieces of iron. These are known as iron fillings. They should look somewhat like iron powder, but you have to know that iron is a metal and it cannot be converted into powdered form. Okay, so we call it iron fillings. Now when these things are mixed all together, let me remove this stray iron particles that I have drawn here. Now the sulfur and the iron are mixed together. In this case we are just studying the mixture part. Okay, I have just taken the two samples, poured them together in the container and mixed them. That's it. I'm not applying any kind of energy here. So it is a mixture of the iron and the sulfur, right? Now one property of the mixture is the constituent substances should retain their properties. In a mixture, the constituent substances should always retain their properties. What does that mean? Here I am mixing the iron and the sulfur, right? Now the iron should have the iron's property and the sulfur should have the sulfur's property. Their property will not change. Remember that. In last class, when I was teaching you the compounds, I told you when the compounds are formed, the new substance does not have the properties of the older substances from which it was formed, right? I gave you one example of hydrogen and water, right? Sorry, hydrogen and oxygen that was forming water, right? Now when hydrogen combines with oxygen, it forms water. Now hydrogen and oxygen both are gases. Hydrogen is a explosive gas, whereas oxygen helps in combustion, but water has a property completely different from both of the thing. First of all, it is a liquid in our planet's room temperature, right? Now it is actually used to extinguish flames. These are some common properties that I gave you, right? Now you can see the properties of the substances from which this new substance was formed is completely different, right? The properties of these things are different from this thing, right? But in case of a mixture, it is not the case. Now I was explaining this mixture of iron and sulfur here, right? It is just a mixture. I'm not trying to combine it chemically. So if I bring let's take this color. If I bring a piece of a bar magnet, now all of you know what a bar magnet is, right? North pole, south pole. If I bring a magnet in front of this mixture, all of you know what magnets does to iron. All of the iron particles that are present here would actually be attracted towards this magnet, and all of these particles will be coming out of the mixture and will get attached to this magnet, right? So you can separate this entire mixture like that. So you can say that the iron and the sulfur both are retaining their properties here. So this is a mixture. This is not a compound. Now let's go to the compound part. Again, we are just taking iron and sulfur together. Now in here, what I should do, we should heat this mixture. Now after some time you will see that this entire mixture starts to glow. It starts to glow a little bit, okay? And after some more time, what will happen? It will form a this one looks perfect. After some time, if you just continue to heat this one, this entire mixture will form a brown cluster like this. It will convert into a brownish cluster, somewhat like this. Okay, now the color of iron was completely different, right? If the iron is not rusted and not covered with any kind of paints or external substances, the iron's color would be lustrous, it will shine. And the sulfur's color was yellow. Both of the things combined together, and I'm heating that thing, and it converted into a brownish lump of solid substance. Understood? This is what will happen if you just continue to burn the thing, if you just continue to heat the thing. Now what is this? This is a compound. This new thing that we have gathered here is a compound. Take that magnet that we utilized earlier. Take that piece of magnet again. Bring it near to this compound. In this case, in the earlier case, what we saw, the iron particles are coming out of this mixture, right, and attaching to the end of this magnet, north pole and south pole, right? It is the iron particles are getting attached to the north pole, right? But now when you bring this magnet near to the mixture, none of the iron particles will come out of this. Okay, it will say you can say that the iron has lost its property. And why is that? Because this lump that you can see, the brown colored lump that you can see here, it is not iron and sulfur anymore. It has converted into, this is iron sulfide. Okay, this is a completely new substance, iron sulfide. This iron sulfide does not have any properties that is similar to that of the iron or the sulfur. It is a completely new substance. It's a molecule of iron sulfide. I hope I could make myself clear in this one. Now, let me show you a video to make this entire experiment a little more clearer to you guys. So here you can see the mixture of sulfur and iron is present in a container. Now, let's see what happens in this reaction. Now, the person is actually mixing this these two things together properly. Okay. Now, this is a proper mixture of sulfur and iron. Now we need to induce a little bit of heat to this mixture. For that, we will heat a glass rod. This kind of a mixture does not need a lot of heat here. We are just heating a glass rod. Okay, the temperature that the glass rod will reach will be enough for the induction of this chemical reaction. We have to just induce this much heat to this and see what happens. The entire mixture is just glowing like this, blazing like this. Now you can see it is glowing yellow. A little bit of flame is there also. Yeah. Now the new compound that is formed is neither iron nor sulfur. This cluster that you can see here is iron sulfide. Clear? Now we understood about the mixtures, right? Now let's study a little bit about the difference between this mixture and compounds. Mixture and compound. Now the first difference that we will get, constituents are combined together not chemically but physically only. You understood that, right? In case of that iron and sulfur reaction, what happened? We are just mixing the two things. First of all, what we did, we took the container, we mixed the substances together, right? So it was just a mixture. When you bring the magnet in front of it, what happened? The iron particles actually was able to escape from the mixture and go and get attached to the ends of the magnet, right? This was possible. So mixture is just the mixing is just a physical phenomena only. They are not combining chemically with each other. Now, in case of compounds, the constituents are combined together chemically. When the iron sulfide is being formed, what happened? You no matter how strong of a magnet you bring in front of that mixture, the iron particles are not coming out anymore, right? It is not iron anymore. It is a completely new thing. It's iron sulfide now. After that, we have constituents can be present in any ratio, and in compounds the constituent should always be at a fixed ratio. Last day I explained in by giving you one example with about the water, right? It should always be 2 atoms of hydrogen and 1 atom of oxygen. In this case also, in case of this reaction that I gave you, iron and sulfur, it was giving you iron sulfide. Okay, now let me take 14 gram of iron. Let me take 14 gram of iron and 8 gram of sulfur. Now, when I'm taking these things and reacting with each other, what will I get? I will get 22 grams of FeS. I'm just adding these two things. This added to this thing. Okay, I'm just getting 22 grams of iron sulfide. It will always be 22 grams. Now see, if I take in the second scenario, if I take 8 gram of sulfur and add this to maybe 20 gram of iron, it will not change. It will remain, the answer will remain 22 gram of FeS only, and the remaining of the 6 gram of iron, it will be left alone. The 6 gram of iron that is still there will be left alone. The iron and the sulfur will always combine at a fixed ratio. If you just divide this thing and find a perfect ratio of the entire thing, 8 divided by 14, what will you get? You will get 4 by 7, right? So you can say that it is 4:7 in this case, right? Let me clear the screen a little bit. You can literally say that sulfur is to iron is always in the ratio of 4:7. Here the molecule that was formed was FeS, right? Now what is this FeS? FeS is one molecule of iron sulfide, right? Now it literally means that one atom of iron is reacting with one atom of sulfur to form one molecule of ferrous sulfide, right? Now let's make it a little bit more elaborate. Why is this 4/7 always? See, in this case, one atom of iron is reacting with one atom of sulfur, right? Now the mass of one atom of iron is approximately 56 unit and one atom of sulfur is 32 unit. Now try to find out the ratio between these two things. You will get 56 and 32. If you just go on dividing these two things, what will you get? You will get 7 by 4. That is literally 4:7 or 7:4, whatever you write, right? So you can get a concept from this thing, right? One atom of sulfur will always react with one atom of iron to form the iron sulfide here. Okay, the ratio at which the compounds are formed will always be same. In this case, it will always be 4:7. I hope I could make myself clear about this thing. If not, you can ask me later. Okay. Next point. Constituents can be separated by physical method. Of course, by the help of a magnet, you could separate the iron from the mixture, right? But in case of the iron sulfide, you could not do that. no matter how strong a magnet you bring in front of the mixture, it does not separate the substances. Now, the last point is the properties of the constituent substances remain unchanged. I have already discussed this in length. In case of compounds, the constituent substances will change. In case of water also, the hydrogen and the oxygen was reacting with each other to form water, and the property of hydrogen and oxygen was not there in water, right? The property of water was completely different from both of these things. In case of iron and sulfur also, the property of iron and sulfur is not there in iron sulfate. The property of iron sulfate is completely different from the property of iron and sulfur, right? I hope I could make myself clear in this video. Even if any one of you face any kind of problem regarding any of these things, you are always welcome to contact me. Okay. Now, until next time, bye bye.